Shalom. I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. I'm going to talk about the Torah reading for this week, which is Parsha Ekev. And the overriding subject of what I'm going to be talking about is how can we achieve holiness by doing seemingly less important mitzvot. Now, we know that it's not for us to determine what is an important mitzvah and what is not an important mitzvah. When we do a mitzvah, we fulfill God's commandment. We're doing it for the purpose of fulfilling God's will. But unfortunately, sometimes we analyze, well, is this really an important thing? We compare, uh, maybe it's important to do this mitzvah, but it's not so important to do that. So this parsha uh, talks about, it starts with very interesting words. The beginning of the parsha is V'hoya Ekev tishma'un es hamishpatim ho'ela u'shmartem v'asisem osam. And says you shall surely listen to these commandments and observe them and keep them. Now, first of all, the word v'hoya, it's an interesting way of starting a sentence. V'hoya, and it shall be, refers to a state of happiness, of simcha. So the Torah is telling us somehow if we do this right, we're going to have joy in the future from what we do. The word Ekev is a strange word. Typically, to convey the concept of if you do something, you say im. Could have said im if you do this. Ekev is a strange word, and the word Ekev really in Hebrew means the heel, the bottom of your foot. So what the Meforshim tell us, the sages tell us, the Midrash says, that we have to be careful to do those mitzvos that we tread upon with our feet, that we think are not important, and therefore we're not concerned about doing them. It says we have to be careful about those mitzvos. King David was saying that he wasn't worried about dying, except for the fact that he was concerned not about the stringent mitzvos, stringent commandments that he may not have done, but he was concerned about those, quote, seemingly minor commandments that he didn't do. The mitzvot kalot, the easy mitzvot. We are taught that the letters of Ekev, if you turn that around, it can spell Kadesh Atzmecha B'ma Shemuter Lecha. What does that mean? It means that, and the Tibur Shalom talks about this many times, you can make yourself holy by doing that which is permissible to you. So you might think that, okay, I'm eating kosher food, keeping Shabbos, but it's really good food. I'm just enjoying the food. It has nothing to do with Shabbos. Or I'm doing another mitzvah, and it's okay. I'm fulfilling the mitzvah. No, we have to first of all recognize that to make yourself holy requires doing the mitzvah with joy, and also doing a mitzvah, doing it in such a way that you'll take those things that are permitted to you, not just avoiding those things that are prohibited, but taking those things that are permitted to you and raising them to a higher level. Kadesh atzmacha b'ma. Now, sometimes we've fallen in the trap of thinking that, we can act one way outside in public, but we go into the privacy of our home, we can leave some of these things out. For example, maybe in public, you are very careful not to show anger. But when you get home after a busy day and you see the children's toys around, maybe the wife isn't quite ready with dinner, uh, you might have a reaction of getting angry. So later on in the parsha, a few sentences later, the Torah tells us, "Lo tovi to'ava el beisecha." You shouldn't bring an abomination into your house. This comes right after discussing in the Torah about how you have to destroy idols. And the Gemara in Gemara Shabbos says that if somebody who is reacts to his anger, shows his anger by tearing his clothes, by breaking dishes, by uh, doing all kinds of things to demonstrate anger, yelling at people, yelling at his children. It doesn't actually say that, but I'm inferring that from what it says. By doing that, what is he doing? It says, it shall be like somebody who's an idol worshiper. So when the Torah tells us don't bring an abomination into your house, it means don't bring anger and rage into your house because that is an abomination. You have to recognize that that's something the Torah does not want. The later on in the parsha, towards the end, we have the famous paragraph, which is the second paragraph of the Shema. Vohoya im Shemoa. Again, the word Vohoya, language of joy. You will have joy im Shemoa if you will listen to my commandments that I command you today to love God. So how does one love God? So Rashi has an interesting thing. The great commentator Rashi says, Lehavas Hashem, to love God, what does that mean? That you shouldn't say, okay, I'm going to do this commandment. I'm going to study so that I could look like a wise person, or that I can get a job, or that I'm going to be paid for doing this, or some other ulterior purpose, instead of doing it for the purpose of fulfilling the mitzvah. So Rashi says, loving God means to not have an ulterior purpose. And the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, Holy Orach Chaim, Rachaim Atar, on love, he says, if you will listen, he says, what this means, the he again says that Bahoya is a lashon of simcha, is a language of joy. And it is a condition. God is making a condition with you that if you fulfill the mitzvah, when you're fulfilling a mitzvah, you should do it with joy. Not do it as a matter of rote, but do it with joy. And how do we show our love to God? We show our love to God by loving God's creations, by loving our fellow human being. God has commanded us to you should love your brother as yourself. Don't hate your friend in your heart. Don't hate another person. We have to do our job to try to increase the level of love in this world. And if we do that by stopping the hatred, by stopping talking badly about people, by not being angry, then we are showing our love of God. And as God promises us, that showing of love and that not treading on the mitzvahs, but doing everything in a manner to raise it up, to raise yourself up, will bring us to total happiness. I wish everybody that we should all achieve this ability of Kadesh Atzmo Mashimutra Lacha to be able to raise our level of observance, especially as we're coming closer to Rosh Hashanah, to serve God with joy and with love. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. Shabbat Shalom.